starts with throwing out the current tax code. Throw it out. Now, my fellow Republican contenders say that you can't do that. I say, why? Well, it won't pass. And that's when I said to Senator Santorum, see, therein lies the difference between a politician and a problem solver. The politician wants to put together what they can pass. A problem solver puts together what it'll take to fix the problem. Let's fix stuff in Washington, D.C. for a change. So you start with throwing out the old plan. Now let me point out right now that all of my contenders, all of the ones that attacked me on that stage last night, all of their plans start with trying to pivot off of the current tax code. I'm the only one that has a plan that throws it out and put in what we call
999.
I love y'all. I love y'all. The American people get it. Y'all, you get it. It's the ones in Washington, D.C. that have a vested interest in the current tax code that they don't want 999 to succeed. And it is driving them crazy that the public is catching on to it and you like it. You are talking about it. The lobbyists don't want this to pass. The politicians don't want this to pass. A lot of the people inside the Beltway don't want it to pass. But I'm getting a strange feeling that the American people want 999 to pass when I get to Washington, D.C. 9% business flat tax. And as a business, you take your net sales minus purchases, whatever you purchase to produce your product, and minus capital investment. No depreciation. No depreciation. You spend money to buy an oven or a camera for your business, you should be able to deduct that right away. Because that way you only tax labor and capital once. You had to work hard to generate the cash flow that you're now going to go out and reinvest. So why penalize the money you're going to reinvest in your business? That is a good thing. Then you apply the 9%. Second one, 9% personal income flat tax. But you are allowed to deduct charitable contributions. Charitable contributions. And here's why. One of my guiding principles is, if you want to solve a problem, go to the source closest to the problem. Charitable organizations are closest to the problems in the community. More stuff gets done and fixed by community organizations than the government can ever do. So encourage those organizations so you can give your money to the organization that you know right there in your community are doing a good job. The third 9% tax on retail sales. It's called a consumption tax. Now, this is the one that all of my competitors decided to beat me up on. They wanted to confuse some of you. They wanted to scare some people. So let me explain it. It is a 9% consumption tax. And basically what we have done is, you know that first 9 where you subtract purchases? We've taken out the embedded taxes. The other thing that does is that it levels the playing field for U.S. made products. You take out embedded taxes, it's going to make our products that much more competitive. And then on that third 9, imagine going to the store to buy a loaf of bread. Over time, because of competition, this is the part they don't believe. Maybe they should study economics. I know a little bit about economics and business and mathematics. Competition always makes things better and less expensive. They always make things better and less expensive. I learned this running the Philadelphia region for Burger King Corporation. When I was a vice president, general manager for the Burger King Corporation, I remember when we were doing Whopper specials versus Big Mac for $2, $1.99 special, and we were trying to promote sales and all that good stuff. That was back then. Now they've got 99-cent Big Mac and Whopper specials. Competition drives down prices. And when you go to the store to buy that loaf of bread, embedded in there are taxes from the farmer who grew the wheat, the miller who turned the wheat into flour, the baker, the truck driver that drove the bread to the grocery store, and the grocery store. You got 5 taxes in that loaf of bread. 999 takes those 5 out and put in 1 that you can see. That's how it works. The other thing that they try to get, well, it's going to be regressive on the poor. Well, no, it's not. We anticipated that attack, but I didn't tell them how I was going to fix it yet. I wanted to wait until I get attacked on that for a while. We already have a plan for that. But I wanted to see if they would come at that and they thought that it was going to be dead in the water. No, look, we are a compassionate nation. We do want to help those that are doing all they can to help themselves, but they might need a little bit of help. But we're not going to throw the people at the poverty level under the bus. No, we're not going to do that. But we've already made provisions for that, but I just hadn't told the public, my opponents, about it yet. So we're going to take care of those that are less economically advantaged. And so when we put that plan together, we had 5 objectives. We wanted it to be simple, 999. Transparent, there are no hidden nines. That's it. We wanted it to be efficient. Did you know that we all spend collectively $430 billion a year filling out the forms and trying to comply with the tax code? $430 billion a year. Now, with 999, y'all going to be able to keep that $430 billion a year, because the part that you're going to have to send in, you can do it on the back of a postcard. Yeah. So you're not going to be able to do your own taxes. So we want it to be efficient. 4th, we wanted it to be fair. Not Washington's definition of fair. Webster's definition of fair. Everybody gets treated the same. That's my definition of fair. Don't you just love it when you hear President Obama talking about the rich ought to pay their fair share? You all know this. 50% of the taxpayers pay 97% of the taxes today. What do they call fair? When that 50% is paying all 100%? No, that's not my definition of it, and that's not your definition of it. Now, we're going to help those that are poor and those that are on the low economic income level. We're going to do that. But this way, it is fair. All businesses get treated the same. Now, get this part. No loopholes for anybody. No loopholes. The lobbyists' brains have exploded. Well, what are we going to do? Go find a real job. That's what we have to do. Because they won't be able to go in there and try to get a favor put in for somebody, to get a favor taken out for somebody. That's what's wrong with Washington, D.C. It's run based upon favors being manipulated for folk. That helps to clean it up and to do the things that the people want. And then the last one is we want it to be revenue neutral. It is. And we know that it'll provide the amount of certainty that we need in order for business people to get out of this mode of survive and get in a mode of growth. When you know what the ground rules are, businesses will grow. I served on the board of several corporations for the last 20 years before I decided to run for office. And when I would go to a board meeting, we didn't talk about how we're going to make the company smaller. We talked about how we're going to make the company grow. But then, just before I made the decision, the 2 years leading up after the Obama administration took over, we were having meetings when we had the board meeting talking about how do we survive. When I was doing my radio show in Atlanta, Georgia, 5 nights a week, 3 hours a night, people would call prior to this administration and express their frustration and say, Mr. Cain, I am concerned about the future of America. Over and over and over. And I said, why? For all of the same reasons that you and I are. After the Obama administration took over, and they forced through Obamacare, they forced cap and trade through the House, but they were able to put the brakes on it because the American people caused the phone lines in D.C. to melt, that even Barbara Boxer didn't even want to take it up. She even put it on the back burner. When you looked at all of the regulatory changes that this administration is forcing on American businesses, the calls I was getting last year were, Mr. Cain, I am fearful for the future of America. People are going from concern to fear. Why? Because of this administration, because of what's happening in Washington, D.C. This is why I say the American dream has been hijacked. But the good news is we can take it back. We have an economic crisis. We've got an energy crisis. My approach to every one of these problems, folks, is the same business problem-solving approach I have used throughout my career. Every successful business person has essentially done the same thing. When I was a ballistics analyst with the Department of the Navy back in the late 1970s, and I had to do a ballistics analysis on a rocket-assisted projectile or a fire control system projectile, the first thing that you determine in doing your analysis is, where's the target? What are you trying to hit? I know it sounds like common sense, but I learned that in math as a math major. Where's the target? In business, the first question is, what's the problem? Work on the right problem. Assign the right priority. Surround yourself with good people that will help you put together the right plans to fix stuff. When was the last time stuff got fixed in Washington, D.C.? Time's up. They don't fix stuff. They either make it worse or they pass it off down the hill for future generations to worry about. And so it's the same approach that you use as a successful business person, the same one that I use. And so let's talk about, very quickly, energy. We have the resources to become energy independent. And I plan to put together an energy independence strategy and plan in order to do that. Because we've got enough oil, coal, shale oil, natural gas to put together that plan. When I was giving this speech inside the Beltway, I got a skeptic that said, Mr. Cain, well, that sounds good, but you can't do that. I said, why? Well, the EPA is not going to let you develop all those resources. I said, wait a minute, let me get this straight. Do they work for us or do we work for them? They think we work for them. Well, under a Cain presidency, the EPA will get a severe attitude adjustment so we can have an attitude adjustment. Now that will mean that we're going to have to strip out some of these regulations that don't need to be there in order to be able to not allow it to impede economic growth. We can do it responsibly. We can do it responsibly. Now, having an energy independence strategy plan is not only an economic imperative, it is a national security imperative. Nearly 70% of our oil comes from foreign countries. One of them happens to be Canada, but we need to decrease our dependency on foreign oil. And the way we do it is maximize the resources that we have here. Think about this world. It's not safer. The world is more dangerous. What if OPEC had a meeting one day and all of a sudden decided that they were going to cut us off from oil? We don't have enough in the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to last any length of time. We need to be energy independent so we won't be dependent upon them from a national security standpoint. Foreign policy. You know, when you rise up in the polls, you get this big target on your back. Mm-hmm. And so I have been criticized for not having extensive foreign policy experience. And the guy there now does. Richard, is this a double standard or something that's going on here? I have consulted with foreign policy experts. Let me tell you what they have told me. Herman, all you need is character and common sense and intelligence, and we got plenty of people who can fill out the details and help you with putting together the strategy. That's what leaders do. Woo! But I do have a foreign policy philosophy. Who's in charge of the microphone? Can y'all turn this one up a little bit? I feel like I'm pushing harder than I really need to. That's much better. These deep voice. Thank you. I felt like I kept pushing and pushing, and they kept turning the knob down. No, there we go. That's much better. I do have a foreign policy philosophy. It is an extension of the Reagan philosophy. Reagan's philosophy was peace through strength. Oh, I knew I had to get conservative. The Cain philosophy is an extension of that. Peace through strength and clarity. Clarify who our friends are. Clarify who our enemies are. Stop giving money to the enemies and tell the world who our friends are. When our enemies know who our friends are and know who we are going to stand with and stand by, they won't be emboldened to try and challenge us. And one of our friends that we will unequivocally stand with is Israel. One of the questions I often get is, well, what are you going to do about Iran? Well, I didn't know you were the timekeeper. Oh, that sign says 2 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can put that away. You should have told me before I got started that I had some time. What am I going to do about Iran? First of all, when we get our energy independence strategy, and we start to impact the price of oil on the world market, it's going to drive the price of oil down. And once it gets down below $70 a barrel, that's going to put a hurt on Iran. They're not going to have enough money to develop a nuclear program. This is another reason we need to do our energy independence strategy. So we need to tell the world who our friends are so we can let them know we will stand with our friends. Because since the timekeepers told me that I'm out of time, I guess I won't go too many.
China. He's a Democrat.
China. China. have a China strategy. You know that first 9 that where you subtract purchases, those purchases are deductible only if you purchase those items from U.S. companies. It levels the playing field. It makes our products competitive with the rest of the world, including China. And so my China strategy isn't to try to beat up on China. This legislation that they passed about a week ago, they're going to make some demands of China. Let me tell you, you can't demand anything from China or Iran or anybody else. The only thing they understand is economic incentive based upon how